Hello. It's me. Think about it. So here's the deal. Before we get started here, I do want to let you all know, before I show the tier list and etc., and like we talk about what we're going to be doing. Oh, shoot, I'm on the wrong tab. Hang on. Before I do any of that, I do want to let you know that, so today we're talking about the Crown Tundra DLC, and some of the Pokemon that were like confirmed to be returning in it. However, why is this not working? However, I'm not positive about like the methods used necessarily to confirm these Pokemon. So, like for example, effectively what I'm saying is that there's a chance that some of these like Pokemon that are confirmed to be returning are like via like data mine or something. So if you don't want spoilers, you don't watch this video. I am not sure. Like I'm not positive, but like I was looking on Cerebi and like not all the Pokemon. Like I didn't see all the Pokemon that were confirmed so far. Like there were some Pokemon that were not confirmed so far. They're on the tier list. So just letting you know before we jump into it. If you don't want spoilers about the returning Pokemon, click off now. Okay, cool. So here's the deal. Crown Tundra DLC comes out in a couple weeks, end of October, and there's a lot of Pokemon returning. Now the majority of these Pokemon are legendary Pokemon, but not all legendary Pokemon are created equal. Some are a lot better than others, and we haven't done a tier list in a while as well. So I figured it could be fun, kind of just to talk about some of the Pokemon that are returning and talk about how good they are. So with all that being said, let's jump into it. This is the list here. First of all, we have Nidoqueen. Now Nidoqueen and Nidoking are kind of interesting Pokemon. Let's see. They have a lot going for them, but they also have some pretty major weaknesses. There are good offensive poison types. Poison is not the best type. I guess I should say that poison types aren't typically the best Pokemon. Like, poison has some things going for it. And, like, it's a pretty good max move type if you, like, are able to boost yourself. Like, because basically Max Ooze obviously raises your special attack. I like that the Nidos boost their special attacks with Max Ooze, and I like that they boost their special defense with Max Quake. However, they lose Sheer Force when they Dynamax, meaning they lose actually a good chunk of power. So I'm not sure exactly how good they will be. They have a good move pool. I'm grouping them together. They're different Pokemon. Like, normally I consider Nidoqueen to be a bit above Nidoking. Like, maybe you could argue this. Zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So, like, but I think they're probably both maybe B tier, because normally Nidoqueen's bulk is better, but in a Dynamax format, maybe Nidoking's bulk, like, lack of bulk is not as bad, and its speed and power is more valuable. So I'd say these are B tier Pokemon returning. They're not bad. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do well, but I also don't expect them to do incredibly well. Jinx is not a great Pokemon. It's not horrible. It has some things going for it. It has Skill Swap Dry Skin, which makes you can make any Pokemon immune to water and like have them heal in the rain. It gets Fake Out, it gets Icy Wind, it gets Lovely Kiss, so it's got some decent moves. It's not like an awful Pokemon, but it's not good either. Really poor physical defense, really bad defensive typing, as with most ice types. Yeah, it gets Fake Out as well. So like, it again, not terrible, but definitely not great. I don't consider Omastar to be super good. I think it's probably about as good as Jinx. Like, it's a Swift Swim user that is a special attacker. However, yeah, like it's just not phenomenal in my opinion. It has a pretty poor move pool. Like, it gets Shell Smash, so like there are things you could do with it, but like overall, it's just pretty lackluster across the board. I think in terms of moves, you're in Surf, maybe or Scald, Meteor Beam, maybe now that it probably gets that, and then maybe I believe it gets Earth Power as well. So like, it has not a terrible move pool. You could definitely use it as like a Life Orb Swift Swim user, and like maybe with Dynamax it's stronger, but I don't think so. Kabutop's also a C tier Pokemon. It's also got Swift Swim, which is valuable. Like, Swift Swim is a good ability. However, these Pokemon in general are going to be like letting you down. They don't have the stats to hold up with some of the stronger Pokemon at all, in my opinion. And yeah, their move pools aren't great. Their typing isn't great. Like, they're not terrible. If you had to use them, you could probably like find ways to make it work. However, they're not going to be your first pick on a team almost ever. So, yeah. Okay, Aerodactyl. So Aerodactyl, I don't really know. Like, I think I'm going to put Aerodactyl in B tier because assuming it still gets Tailwind, Tailwind is very, very, very powerful in the current generation, and it's a very fast Tailwind user. Aerodactyl's seen play over the years in VGC, kind of like the Nidos, like it pops up every once in a while. Some of that was because of its Mega Form, but some of it, like, it has some good things it can do. It can do Taunt, it can use Tailwind. It's like a really fast Rock Slide user, so it's not awful. It's not great though. Articuno, another C tier Pokemon, in my opinion. I don't really have much to say about it. Like, it's about as good as these other Pokemon. It's 4 times weak to Rock. It doesn't have great offenses. It's especially bulky, but like it needs physical bulk as well, which it lacks. Move pool's always been a little lacking. With Dynamax, it definitely hits harder, but like I don't think it's going to be very worthwhile in the long run. The defensive typing is just terrible. Zapdos, however, is S tier in my opinion. Zapdos has like always been a good Pokemon in VGC. Even when we had Thunderous, people still use Zapdos. It used to get Tailwind and Roost. I'm not sure it still does. It was used pretty often in 2018 with Z moves. Like Z move Zapdos was pretty common because you got like a lot of power out of that. And I'm interested to see how Zapdos will perform now because, yeah, like I don't know. Like, it loses some pretty important moves that it used to get, like Hidden Power Ice and Roost, and maybe even Tailwind, because I believe that was a tutor move, so we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, like, depending on how things go, it definitely might take a nerf, but I think it also benefits in a lot of ways. I'm not sure if it gets a single special flying type move, but with Dynamax, if it does, you could run Max Airstream, which would be pretty valuable on it. Max Lightning is good, obviously. We'll have to wait and see, effectively, but I have a lot of faith in Zapdos. Unlike a lot of these other Pokemon we've talked about, Zapdos absolutely has the stats. Moltres is next. This is a C or a D tier Pokemon. I honestly kind of feel like it's D tier. Like, it might be... It's like, I don't know, it's about as good as Articuno. Like, all these Pokemon you could argue are maybe D tier, honestly. I guess I want to look through... Are there Pokemon that are, like... I guess I'll reserve D tier for, like, the worst of the worst and put Moltres in C tier. But, yeah, like, anything... C and D are both really bad right now. Like, I wouldn't want to use any of these Pokemon. Moltres is good special attack and good speed, but bad defensive typing, bad coverage. Yeah, its weaknesses are also very common in Water, Rock, and Electric, like, primarily, so, yeah. Moltres is not a great Pokemon. Dragonite, in my opinion, is A tier. Now, this is a little bit controversial because Dragonite has not had, a ton of success in VGC, I wouldn't say ever, like, it was used in 2017 on kind of a niche, team that ended up doing well by Geo, on his EV team, but other than that, like, Dragonite is something that has traditionally been a letdown in VGC because there are just better Dragon types. Back in the day, it was like Latios and Garchomp, but then it was Garchomp and Salamance, and then, yeah, like there's pretty much always been a better Dragon type. However, I think Dragonite actually got some major buffs in Dynamax and in Inner Focus. So Dragonite actually is a pretty decent attack set, as I recall, and like a really good physical move pool with Extreme Speed, Fire Punch, Earthquake, Dragon Claw, Outrage, Fly, etc., etc. However, it was weak to Intimidate, so you normally have to run special attacking Dragonite. However, now it gets access to Inner Focus, which not only prevents flinching like it always did, but now actually makes you immune to Intimidate. So that's interesting, for one thing. It also can now run a Flying move, a Flying Max move, and raise its speed. And it can lower the opponent's attack with like Max Dragon, and it can boost special defense with Max Quake. It has a very good move pool, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it do well at all. You could use Life Orb, you could use Assault Vest, maybe you could run like a Choice Band set, maybe a Lumberry, like there's a lot of different options you can go with it, but I think it could actually be a good Pokemon now, so I'm putting it in the A tier. Crobat's another Pokemon that gets buffed by Inner Focus, because traditionally like Crobat didn't do any damage. You'd run Taunt, Tailwind, Super Fang, Haze. It was traditionally used in restricted metagames. However, with the buffs to Tailwind and the buffs to Inner Focus, you can now maybe justify running Brave Bird on Crobat, because you can like consistently do like 30% of things if it's neutral. Yeah. So I think Crobat actually is pretty good. It's a very good support Pokemon. It's kind of like Whimsicott-esque in the way it plays, except it has a little bit less damage output, like compared to Moonblast, but it also has different support moves. So you get access to Tailwind and Taunt all the same, but you can run Super Fang, which isn't as good in a Dynamax format, but you can run Haze, which is very good in a Dynamax format. There's a lot of different things with Crobat. I think it's a good Pokemon. Unironically, I think it's good. So yeah, I'm putting it up there. Armaldo, D or C tier. I honestly really think Armaldo's pretty bad. Yeah, I think Armaldo's pretty bad. Like, I guess it's about as good as some of the other fossils, but it feels worse, I think, because of the bug typing rather than the water typing, even though it still gets Swift Swim. So I'm putting it in the D tier. I'm going to do all three dogs at once, I think. I think these are all A tier. Like, it's going to depend on move pool a lot. Like, I don't know if Suicune gets Tailwind still, which might, like, bump it up. Basically, the way these play is Raikou normally would, like, most people would consider a B tier Pokemon, but with Dynamax, I think it can actually be pretty good. Raikou's the fastest of the three. It's normally a fast offensive special attacker. Sometimes it runs Calm Mind, normally Thunderbolt, Calm Mind, Hidden Power Ice, or a Sphere were all moves that were run at times. It depends a lot on move pool, truthfully. Like, you have a lot you can do with it, but I think that Raikou is a Pokemon that should benefit a lot from Dynamax, because although its bulk wasn't terrible, like, it wasn't phenomenal either, and so, like, it was kind of like this, it got close to being really good at a lot of things. Like, it was just a little bit too slow to be super fast, it was, like, a little bit not strong enough to be super strong, and it was just, like, not bulky enough to make it, like, a bulky offensive Pokemon in a way that was, like, meaningful. However, now, with the addition of Dynamax, I think it could be a lot better. So I definitely have faith in it. Any electric type that lost Hidden Power Ice, is going to have to do some rethinking because, yeah, it was pretty valuable for them in general. However, I don't think that necessarily means that they're bad, because while they lost in Power Ice, they gained the ability to set electric terrain for themselves, and effectively, yeah, power up pretty significantly. So I am interested in Raikou. Entei as a hidden ability gets Inner Focus, meaning, as we've been talking about, it's immune to... Actually, all of them get Inner Focus, but Entei benefits the most because it's the one that is physical most of the time, and gets Sacred Fire. So Inner Focus means you're immune to Intimidate. Sacred Fire has a 50% chance to burn. It's a very powerful combination. All three of them kind of lack in move pool. Suicune lacks the least, but like all three of them struggle with move pool. But like I definitely think Entei could be good. A fast Sacred Fire user. It's like inconsistent, but like it also is not a thing that you can switch any physical attacker on unless they're a fire type. Because yeah, like it's just like so difficult to handle. So even if you have like a rock, like you can't, like for example, if I had Entei and it learned Flare Blitz, and the opponent had like a Ferrothorn, they could switch the Ferrothorn in, right? Or they could switch the Tyranitar in for the Ferrothorn, take the Fire move. You can't do that with Sacred Fire. Pokemon like Tyranitar, any like Pokemon like Urshifu Water, like nothing switches into Sacred Fire, because if it gets burned, then you're like, well, it's as if I got hit with like Sheer Cold, kinda, you know? So I think Entei got pretty buffed with the Inner Focus buff, and with the access to it thanks to the Hidden Ability Capsule, or the Ability Patch, or whatever it's called. So I think Entei can be good. Suicune typically has had the most success in VGC over the years. Man, this is taking a while. I'm not upset that it's taking a while, I just thought I'd be going faster. Suicune's had the most success in VGC over the years, so you might be able to argue it's S tier, but it's fallen off in recent years. It's a bit too passive, and it's also not great in metagames where like its speed control support is not valuable. So if the opponent has lots of Icy Wind, or if the opponent has Trick Room, if the opponent has like Tailwind, if the opponent can like ignore Suicune basically, then it's not as valuable. Typically it runs Scald, Icy Wind, Tailwind, and then other moves like either Icy Wind or Tailwind, and then if it runs Tailwind, maybe Ice Beam. It's just like a good support Pokemon. A lot will depend on the move pool for these three, but I have a lot of faith in them. I'm going to rank the restricted Pokemon as they would be ranked in a restricted metagame. I don't have much faith in Lugia, truthfully. It's like fast, it really lacks damage output. It was used a little bit in 2019, but yeah, basically, sorry, for anyone who doesn't know, the way that restricted metagames work is like all of the restricted Pokemon, like Lugia, Ho-Oh, Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, etc., you're allowed to have two on your team. So you can't use Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Groudon, right? So when you talk about Pokemon in restricted metagames, you can't just think like, oh, this Pokemon is, you know, strong, or is good, so I'll use it. You have to think about your opportunity cost. And by using something like Lugia, you're giving up access to stronger restricted Pokemon like Lunala or Groudon or Kyogre. So I don't think Lugia is phenomenal, truthfully, as a Pokemon. It's very passive. It doesn't do it doesn't put in a lot of pressure. It's not a terrible Pokemon, but like given the other restricted Pokemon, it's C tier. Ho-Oh, on the other hand, is B tier, in my opinion. Ho-Oh has access to Sacred Fire, like we talked about. Ho also has access to Regenerator, which is more consistent than Multi-Scale, like Lugia has. Although it is 4 times weak to Rock, it is weak to Water. On the right team, it can be strong, so I do believe in Ho a little bit. Sceptile is a D tier Pokemon, in my opinion. It's not very good. Blaziken, C tier. Like, this might make singles players mad, but it's not like Mega Blaziken was okay, but Blaziken lacks the stats in a game like VGC, in a format like VGC, and it's so bad against Intimidate. So yeah, I don't recommend using it, even if you're like a huge Blaziken fan. Swampert, I think Swampert might be B tier. Like Swampert has the stats that Blaziken and Sceptile lack. It doesn't necessarily have the offensive, like it doesn't really make its mark in the same way as some of the like stronger Pokemon, but like it has good type coverage in Earth or Water, Ground, and Ice, and sometimes Rock as well. And it's like got a decent chunk of bulk as well. So I have faith in Swampert. Aggron and Altaria are both pretty terrible. I don't recommend you use them. Aggron is just like a super physically bulky Pokemon, which isn't super valuable in VGC, but despite being super physically bulky, it has 2 4x weaknesses to common types. Altaria doesn't do anything. Mega Altaria you could maybe justify, but like if you want to use a Cloud9 user, you're honestly better off with Licky Licky, and it's not like, I don't know, or Drampa. Like Drampa's actually a Pokemon, so yeah, Altaria is not super good. Cradle is C tier. It's got good bulk, and it has Storm Drain, which is useful, so if your team is like really weak to water type attacks, you could consider it. However, it just sits there and doesn't do damage, so it's not phenomenal. Absol, great design, terrible Pokemon. Terrible stats, terrible offenses, like terrible bulk, just overall really bad. Good move pool though. Walrein, C tier. Walrein's a really bulky water type with some interesting support moves. I believe it gets Yawn. I know it gets Super Fang. It gets Ice Body, which isn't super relevant. It gets Thick Fat though, which is valuable. Like makes it really good against fire and ice attacks. Fire being the more relevant ones, but I don't think Walrein is totally useless. Like I think it's probably just about like it's probably like, yeah, not horrible. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it could be interesting. Relicanth, oh god, it's like there's maybe one gimmick you could do with it. You could like add it to a Trick Room team and use like Rockhead Head Smash. I think C tier is a bit generous though. I feel like this thing has got to be D tier. Like it's really bad. Salamance. Okay, Salamance is interesting. Salamance was the Mega that Salamance is one of the few Pokemon that's won Worlds 3 times. However, and it did win Worlds both in 2019 and 2018, the 2 years it was legal in Mega form. However, like I just said, that was its Mega form. So I'm curious to see how it will perform now that we don't have Mega Evolution anymore. I'm going to put it in A tier. Although Salamence loses its Mega Evolution, Dynamax gives it access to Max Flying off of Fly, which, similar to Landorus T, it never like really had access to a Flying move. So, yeah. Like, that's a big change. It allows physical Salamence, like with maybe like some kind of offensive thing, and maybe with Moxie instead of Intimidate to actually be like used. So I have faith in Salamence. I think it could be okay. Metagross I think is also A tier, also losing a Mega Evolution, but Metagross was good before its Mega Evolution as well. I'm curious to see how people use this. Like, I don't know if it's going to be like a Weakness Policy user or like an Assault Vest user or maybe like a an Agility or user or something. There was a strategy in 2017 where people would lead Salamence Metagross and they would click Bulldoze with Salamence, dropping the speed of the opponent, but not dropping Metagross' speed because of Clear Body, and then activating the Weakness Policy on Metagross. So, for example, you could do Bulldoze plus Metagross again with Dynamax Weakness Policy, and yeah, that'd be interesting. So, I think Metagross could be good. Maybe you might be able to argue either of these would be S tier, but I'm not confident enough in them. Reggie Rock and Reggie Ice are unfortunately pretty bad. Registeel is better, but not... Like, these Pokemon have All My Friends Are Dead syndrome. They just sit around and don't do enough. Latios and Latios, I think, are both B tier in this context. They're about as good as some of these other Pokemon. Like, they're not awful Pokemon, but, like, they don't do enough damage anymore, since the nerf to Draco Meteor and the introduction of Fairy types. Psychic and Dragon are both very bad against Steel types. Obviously, they lost Hidden Power. Yeah. They're definitely interesting Pokemon. I like Latios more... personally, and like Latios can be used in more of a supportive role with like Icy Wind, and it gets Heal Pulse and some other good support moves. Latios is typically more offensive. Maybe these will be good in the format. Like, a lot depends on the metagame as well, but like, yeah. Also, we know Landorus T is coming back, and so Pokemon with bug weaknesses or like weaknesses to U-turn are always like risky. Kyogre and Groudon, I'm putting both in the S tier. It is worth noting we don't know for a fact if Red and Blue Orb are coming back just yet. And that's going to dictate a lot of how good these Pokemon are, but even without the Orbs, like, they're very powerful Pokemon. I think without the Orbs, Kyogre is better. With the Orbs, Groudon... Well, I like Kyogre more personally, but yeah, maybe, like, Groudon improves a lot with its Red Orb because of its additional Fire typing. Rayquaza lost Mega Evolution. I'm going to put it into the B tier. I don't have that much faith in Rayquaza without Mega Evolution. Though, like, a lot depends on it. Can you Dynamax restricted Pokemon? Because if you can, like, you know... yeah, so Rayquaza, like, it's not inherently awful without its Mega Evolution, but it really suffers a lot, I think. Spiritomb is a C-tier Pokemon. It's not amazing. It's not horrible either. It's pretty bad, but it's not awful. I remember when they made Spiritomb, they were like, you have no weaknesses, and then they were like, oh yeah, by the way, Fairy types, and then Spiritomb was like, oh. But yeah, I think it's not horrible. It can't do very much. It doesn't get Trick Room. It gets like Will-O-Wisp. It's pretty bad. I wouldn't recommend using it. Garchomp, I think, is S tier. I think there's a notable difference between Garchomp and then the Pokemon in the A tier. And especially with Dynamax, like, it was already strong and it was already bulky, and this just increases that even further. So, Swords Dance Garchomp plus Dynamax sounds scary if you have the right support for it. Overall, just a really scary Pokemon. I don't like Electivire or Magmortar. These Pokemon used to get Follow Me, in theory, but they do not anymore, and so I don't like them. They're bulky, or they don't do anything well. They just sit around, like, they have decent offenses, decent bulk, but they're super slow. Well, Magmortar's slower, I don't know. I don't think these Pokemon are very good. Uxie, Azel, and Mesprit. Uxie and Mesprit are the worst of the three. Azelf's okay because it's a bit more offensive. There's really no reason to run these two over Cresselia, and Azelf, like, it was good in 2010 or 2009, I think, before I played. That's what I heard, but yeah, like, it's not great. Dialga and Palkia, I like personally. I'm putting them both in the A tier. These are like bulky, restricted Pokemon. They can run Trick Room. They often will run Trick Room. Dialga has like a cool defensive typing with Steel Dragon. So, yeah, I don't know. I like Dialga. I like Palkia. I've used them both at tournaments. They're not the best restricted Pokemon. I think they're like I feel like there should be like an A+ tier because like they're definitely like a good bit worse than like the best restricted Pokemon, but they're better than Ho-Oh and Lugia in my opinion. And maybe Palkia gets Scald now. Oh wait, no, Palkia gets Max Geyser, which means which means that you don't have to worry about missing Hydro Pump. So I think that could be good. Heatran I like a lot. I'm putting it in the A tier. It's not a restricted Pokemon. It is a legendary. It's like a good bulky fire type. Fire Steel is like a great typing. It's like a nice defensive fire type. It consistently outputs damage with Heat Wave. Has good coverage with ground and fire and steel. Just a good Pokemon. One of my favorites. I like it a lot. Regigigas, hot take, B tier. This thing is a good Pokemon. It gets access to Dynamax. And you can pair it with Galarian Weezing and turn off Slow Start. I'm hot taking this and putting it in B tier. I think it could be because like what people don't realize is that Regigigas is like stupid strong. I've used it before. I've used it in tournament. I've used it outside of tournament. It's very, very powerful. But the issue is that it's really hard to turn off Truant or Slow Start because you would have to skill swap it away in the past, and so it didn't work very well. But it has incredible stats and a decent offensive move pool as well. Also, you can Dynamax it and get max guard. So I'm big on the Regigigas train. Jirachin is about as good as Ho. In my opinion, it's slightly better than Lugia. It's like another defensive restricted Pokemon, like that has some things going for it, but like not enough that I would recommend using it. Cresselia, I'm gonna put it in the S tier. Maybe it should be A tier. Cresselia dominated VGC for Generation 5 and for a lot of Generation 6 as well. Yeah, Generation 5 and 6. It fell off in Generation 7 in large part because of Incineroar, I think. However, it's a really good Pokemon. It's like the best defensive support Pokemon with access to Helping Hand, Icy Wind, Trick Room, and then other moves. Like I've used it with Skill Swap and Sunny Day. It can even be offensive. I won Nationals with Expert Belt Cresselia with Hidden Power of Fire, Psyshock, and Icy Wind, and Helping Hand. It's got a lot of different sets that it can run. It can basically do everything. It's one of the best Pokemon ever created, in my opinion. And although it wasn't great in Generation 8, 7? What generation? Generation 7? I do have faith in it. So, yeah. Victini, not legal. Augino, garbage. Caracosta, garbage. Archeops, garbage. Cryogonal, bad but not garbage. But pretty bad. Cryogonal's like fast, but doesn't have a move pool and has like base 10 special or physical defense. Tornadus, A tier, I think. Access to Defiant and then also access to Prankster Tailwind you get to pick. I think could be really good. I definitely think Tornadus, and also with Dynamax. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how Tornadus performs because I think it should be pretty strong. Thunderous, I'm putting it in the A tier. This might be controversial. Most people, like, people who started last generation, like, Thunderous had, like, no results. So, people might not think it's good, but I will never underestimate Thunderous for the rest of my life, because I remember how dominating it was when it was good. So, I'm putting it in the A tier. Landorus, there's not the Sprite, but Landorus T is an obvious S tier, I think. Landorus High is not nearly as good, but Landorus T, instant S tier. I don't think I need to explain to you all how strong Landorus is and how scary it is as a Pokemon, so, yeah. Genesect, not legal. Tyrantrum, I don't really know anything about this because it's a Digimon, so I'm putting it in the C tier. Aurorus, I think is its name, not great. It gets Snow Warning and Refrigerate Hyper Voice, which are like cool in theory, but like very bad defensive typing with a 4x weakness to fighting and steel, and a weakness to ground, and a weakness to water, and a weakness to grass. Overall, not a good Pokemon. C tier is generous for these two. Carbink doesn't do anything. Carbink's actually C tier. Like, it can do guard split stuff. Like, there was a Chansey strategy that used Trick Room Carbink because it's very bulky. Yeah. Oh, God. Don't want to make me talk about this thing. It's so broken. The most broken Pokemon ever. Yveltal, I'm putting in the A tier. Yveltal didn't see a ton of play in 2016 when it was first introduced in a restricted format. Although it did win Nationals that year, as I recall. I think it was Groudon Yveltal in Italy, as I recall. But, yeah, and it was actually used a bit in 2019 as well. I got top 4 with it at Berlin Internationals. But it's a step down from Xerneas and Groudon and Kyogre, for sure. Like, it can do something as well, but yeah. Zygarde is a B tier Pokemon. Saw some success in 2019. I didn't see any usage in 2016, but it gets Zygarde like complete access now. It didn't used to get that, so it's an interesting Pokemon. It doesn't do much damage, but it's very tanky. So yeah, Diancie not legal, Volcania not legal, Koko in my opinion S tier. I've talked about this a bit before in my previous videos, but I think Tapu Koko and Landorus T are the main Pokemon to watch going into this format. Going into the new editions. I intend to use both of them on my first team, at least personally, because they should be. If my theory holds up, they should be incredibly broken. Tapu Koko is extremely fast, hard to hit because you can always Volt Switch out if it's in danger, and now it gets access to Dynamax, boosting its kind of low special attack stat, and allowing it to reset its own electric terrain. I'm gonna put Lele in the A tier. Access to potential expanding force now makes this thing very scary. This might be an S tier Pokemon, but I don't love hyper offense Pokemon. I prefer Pokemon that are bulky offense, so I'm putting Lele in the A tier for that reason. Feeney's also S tier. While Koko offers really good like offensive momentum and stuff, Feeney's like a great defensive Pokemon. Misty Terrain is great against luck because you could turn off all instances of like random sleep, random freeze, etc. I really like Tapu Fini for that reason. I will say though, I wouldn't be surprised if Tapu Fini struggles a bit because it's not a Pokemon that on paper like really benefits a lot from Dynamax. Tapu Bulu, the worst of the Tapu. I'm going to put it down here. It's my favorite Tapu, but it is objectively the worst, so I'm putting it in B tier. Don't sleep on Tapu Bulu. Like, with Grassy Glide, it might actually be a lot better because it can actually, like, attack first now, but this is probably how I would have ranked the Tapu last generation, so I'm keeping that relative thing. Oh, are these things returning? Oh, God, I hope this is a mistake. I do not want these things. Nihiligo... I think it's probably A tier, especially with Max Ooze and Max Rock. This thing is extremely specially bulky, relatively fast, and has, like, decent move pool. Not phenomenal, but decent. Yeah, like, however, it's A or B tier. I think it's probably A tier, but yeah. Buzzwole is probably B tier. I like it, though. I think it's, like, a good, bulky... Like, normally people run Assault Vest on it with, like, Leech Life and Close... Or, I don't remember if we got Close Combat. It might have been Superpower. I think they're in Superpower. Really physically bulky Pokemon with, like, just, like, a nice... Like, has some ability to heal with Leech Life. Kind of cool typing. Only... Like, its main weakness is 4 times to flying, which is, like, not great, but whatever. I like Buzzwole. Pheromosa, B tier, hyper offense. Not a great Dynamax Pokemon because Dynamaxing it will like not let it like it doesn't really increase its longevity too much. Very frail but very fast and it's extremely hard. Hyper offense Pokemon. Zergatree B tier as well. Really incredible special attack stat, but hard to get going because of its other lackluster stats. I'm not sure how much this benefits from Dynamax, but it might. It also gets access to Tail Glow. Celesteela S tier, in my opinion. This is like an incredibly bulky Pokemon that has actual presence. And if you make it offensive, it can do both defense and offense, which is kind of rare at the cost of speed. So I like Celesteela a lot. I think it's a great Pokemon. I hope this thing isn't coming back. This Landorus T and Coco are like... That's all I'm saying, right? Like these, like Kartana being able to Dynamax, although it doesn't increase its special bulk too much in the right situation, like it can just put on so much offensive pressure, and it gets access to like Aerial Ace, so it can raise its speed, I think. And also with like Beast Boost plus Dynamax is terrifying. I can't explain it in any other way. Beast Boost plus Dynamax is absolutely terrifying. Kartana could actually be like, it was even somewhat bulky back in the day when we used it because people were in Assault Vest and like it could actually survive things. And if you Dynamax Assault Vest Kartana, it should actually be like pretty specially bulky. And its defensive typing is good. It's got good defensive typing. Like Steel is a great defensive typing. It's the same type as Ferrothorn, which is like a well-known defensive piece, so I'm scared of Kartana. This thing sucks. This thing is not great, Naganyadel, but I have some faith in it with Dynamax because you can run fast Max Ooze and make yourself strong, so I'm putting it in the B tier. Poison Dragon and Fire is really like enough to put in a lot of pressure, so I have some faith in this thing. It was not nearly used very much at all in previous generation, but I think it could be good. Stakataka, great Pokemon. I think it might get Body Press, if I'm not much mistaken. Or I've heard talk, maybe that if it gets Body Press, which is broken. Very good Pokemon. So strong. So slow, so strong. Amazing Trick Room Pokemon, incredibly physically bulky. Overall phenomenal. And then Blcephalon, I'm putting in the C tier. I think it's one of the worst of the Ultra Beasts, except for Guzzy. They gave it a signature move, Mind Blown. It's really frail. It's not very strong. Or, like, it's strong, but, like... It's not so strong that like you can justify using it. It's like strong enough to like not OHKO things but do a lot, but then it just gets OHKO'd in return because it's so frail. So with Focus Sash on the right team, it's not horrible, but it's not a Pokemon that I personally think is very good. So that's the tier list. Not bad. So let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything you disagree with. I'm excited for this. Like some of these Pokemon are going to be just like, yeah, yeah, these Pokemon are going to be interesting to say the least. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see how it turns out. I'm excited for the DLC, so we'll have to see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.